In today's video, I share with you my miniature storage and transportation system. But before we get into today's video, just want to share with you what the GGGGs are for this month. Each month, Bob the Beholder picks some of my Patreon supporters to receive gratitude gifts. And for this month of February of 2024, we have this 22-watt diode algo laser. We have 10 pledges for the Medieval Napoleonic Farm Kickstarter, an all-in pledge for the upcoming Stage Top Kickstarter, and $100 to go towards a crowdfunding campaign which my Patreon supporters are currently voting upon. Go ahead and use the link below to go to my Patreon page in order to get in on that and have a chance to be chosen by Bob to receive one of these gratitude gifts. We might be populating the list as the month goes along, so make sure to check in regularly to see if anything has been added. So most of the gaming that I do actually happens here in my home, since I have all of the terrain, most of the miniatures out of my game group. I'm the one that paints all of them. So for the most part, we can game perfectly right here in our home on my gaming table. But I am getting more into playing at my friendly local game store. And this is a year that I'm really going to be exploring a variety of different tabletop war games and skirmishes, trying to determine which one is the best one that I like the most. And as part of that endeavor, I have been looking into trying to figure out what is the best system for carrying and transporting my miniatures so that they don't get damaged. So this video is a little bit about that journey, about how I came to my current system, which is using the Ikea Kvissle letter tray, as shown here. I didn't start off with this, and I looked into many different considerations. So if you're looking into possible options for transporting but also storing your miniatures, I'm going to give you the options that I considered and why I ended up choosing this over all of those other options. But when I first started and needed to transport my miniatures, I actually started off with this baking tray. This is from Walmart, pretty cheap. I think it was a little bit under $10 if I remember correctly. And what I like about it is that it comes with this cover and it's steel, so that all of my magnetized miniatures stay in there pretty solidly. And even some of these ones that are really tall, I can stick it here on the side and it still sticks there. And I like being able to carry not a full army, but some miniatures for a skirmish game or something like that. I can just bring this tray. The only downside to this is because this is coated with anti-stick, it's super slippery. And there was twice where in my car I hit the brakes really hard and it slid off the seat onto the ground, broke a couple of my miniatures. So definitely if you go with this, I would put sort of pad down here. I think they're shelf liners for either your drawers for your kitchen supplies or for tool sets. I think they have this rubbery kind that you can stick on there. I would definitely do that. But as I expanded and got into more miniatures, I needed something a little bit bigger. And this is where I looked into what is commercially available. And there are a number of options that are out there. First off, I bought this Game Plus bag and have these trays, these foam trays that are in here. And for the most part, I feel like this works really well, especially if you're going to be banging your bag around quite a bit. The foam protects your miniatures from getting scratched up. But one of the things that I noticed more recently, especially with the Games Workshop Fantasy line, is they are very spindly and have a lot of pointy and really thin objects. And so I was just afraid that I was going to catch on the foam while I was pulling it out or putting it in, and that it would break off some pieces. So I did decide to steer away from using this foam bag, although every once in a while I'll still use this if I have sort of chunky miniatures that I can stick in there. But I have magnetized most of my miniatures to be able to put onto a tray like this, for example. But I ended up looking at other magnetized options, and something that looked really sweet was from Tablewar. This mat, Tablewar makes fat mats, F-A-T mats. But they also do sell their towers, their miniature cases, and they look fantastic. But they are very expensive. The cheapest one that they have is a mini, which costs $120. And then their Mark III, which is their largest one, is $260, which is pretty expensive. But those cases do look pretty nice, but I didn't want to sink that much money into a carrying case. Another popular option actually is from Amazon, and it is the, I think it's pronounced Jucoci, and it looks like it's injection molded plastic sort of outside and then metal trays that you can slide in throughout. And this is $130 for a fairly large case. I have links for all of the products that I'm mentioning down in the descriptions below, so use my affiliate links. And that'll give me a little bit of a kickback without costing you anything more if you choose to purchase them. But the Jucoci, I think the reason why I didn't go for it was I was looking into buying extra plates because I also wanted to store them and be able to swap them out from my storage. But each set of 5 extra trays costs $40, which is $8 a tray, which is very expensive. So I was looking for a cheaper alternative. But to be honest, if I was only buying a case without the need to store the miniatures here at home, I think I would go with the Jucoci because I think that's sort of the best bang for your buck. I know a couple of local people here who have them and the cases look really nice. But because I was looking for a cheaper option, I did end up getting the Kvissle from Ikea. This is actually a letter tray where you can just put 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper in these trays. And it's in the office section of Ikea. The actual boxes for this item is in the, I think, home goods. I can't quite remember, home products or something like that. You can't pick this up in the same location that you see it displayed in the office center. You actually have to go to the place that has all of the home supplies and things like that to pick that up. So originally I just bought one of these, and in order to transport it, there's a couple of different ideas, even from Ikea. I think there is a pet carrier bag that you can use for about $30, $35, and this will fit in it, although you have a lot of empty space. A couple of people, I think, have used a sewing machine bag, and again, I'll provide a link in the descriptions below if you want to go that route, to have a little bit of a smaller bag. The only downside to those options is that you have to lift this in and out of the bag in order to access this because there's no side zipper panel that opens up, and that's really what I wanted. I didn't want to be lifting this in and out of a bag because I could just see myself dumping out all of my miniatures while I was doing that, and didn't want to do that. So instead, I ended up picking up this game bag from Miniature Market. Again, only $25. So with the two of these combined, that's a $50 purchase, which I think is about the cheapest option that you can have other than sort of DIYing your own. And the reason why I like this is because it's steel and all of my magnetic miniatures can stick to it. But the reason why I like this as an option as a bag is not only is it cheap and relatively large, but it perfectly fits this Kvissle tray, and it opens up in the front like this. So when I get to my local game store, I can just pull these out. And right now you see all of my Dead Zone and the GCPS for Firefight, which is what we play at my FLGS. And I can put all my rule books and dice up here. And as you can see, I actually lined mine with a box, a cardboard, because without it, it sort of sags at the top where all of the space is at, and I wanted it to sort of remain like a box. The other handy thing about this is that it has straps so that you can backpack it if you want. Typically I don't, I just carry it off of this top handle up here. But this ended up being a perfect option for me, and with it being relatively cheap at $25, I think that is a really affordable cost. I know that Miniature Market does have a smaller bag that might be shorter, but again, it doesn't have this front flap that opens up. You would have to lift it out just like you would if you were to opt for the sewing bag that's on Amazon. But one of the downsides to using the Kvissle is that you are restricted to these sort of already set slots for where these trays can go into. And that will limit sort of how tall your miniatures can be And as you can see here with my walkers that are taller, I actually didn't even slot it in at all. It's just down here sitting at the very bottom. But I really wanted to be able to figure out how to kit this thing so that I could vary the height that you can with the commercial grade carriers, where you can slot them however high that you want. And hence, I found online these rails. So these are free. Again, links in the descriptions below. Thanks to Michelle Wibb, who created these files and made them available. So I just went ahead and printed out 6 of these large ones, and then you need 4 of these smaller ones. And I used double-sided tape to stick them on the side. It's the easiest to do this, to stick them on before you assemble. And that's what I did, because I went out and purchased 3 more of these and went ahead and stuck these on the sides before I assembled. Now these are super easy to put together. It's not like other Ikea furniture where you need a master's degree to follow the instructions. This is super simple. It just snaps into place. You don't really need any tools except for maybe needle nose pliers to bend over these tabs to hold in the back. But even that is optional. It's a little bit flimsy, like it moves around like this. But again, if you're going to have it inside a bag or you're going to have it in your display case, it doesn't matter that it's a little bit flimsy. I know some people reinforce theirs with rivets and things like that. I think that's a little bit overkill. Overall, anyone is going to be able to put these things together. And especially with these rails on the side, you are able to slot these exactly into the place that you need them to be. And that's why I decided to invest in buying more of these, because not only is this going to be in my carry case, but it is also functioning for my miniatures here at home. So the intent is to be able to store, especially my magnetized miniatures that I'm using for various war games. And I'm able to just slide out the trays that I need for whatever game that I'm playing and stick them in here and swap them out for the Kvissle that's inside of here, rather than switching in the entire unit back and forth. Also, what is awesome is even for my miniatures that I don't war game or don't have magnetized, it increases my storage space in my shelves. So right now I'm about near max capacity on my shelves because I have so many miniatures. Previously, I did a couple of other 3D printed or lasered holders for my miniatures, and they work perfectly fine. But the thing that I really like about this is these trays are larger than the ones that I can 3D print for my trays. One of the current games that I'm playing is Tanaris Adventures, and I did magnetize them. So whenever we play Tanaris Adventures, I can go to my display cabinet and pull out these trays and place it on the table, and we can use it for that game. After the game is over, I can just stick them back here in my display case. It makes it super handy. And because my 3D printed trays are so small, this makes it a lot faster, just because each tray holds about twice as much as the previous trays that I made. Now, one of the downsides of using this over those trays, especially the clear acrylic that I laser cutted, is that you can't see these as well. But I'll give up sort of on being able to see the miniatures in order to be able to have more miniatures in my storage units. And you might be asking the question, do these fit into the Ikea Calic, which I know many of you have to store your game boxes? And the answer is yes, it fits really well in the Calic boxes. You can put as many as these as you want. It fills up a cube. It is relatively shallow, so if you need more space, you can push it in and have quite a bit of space in the front to add other things that you want. But overall, this is so versatile that you can use it in a number of spaces. I am using this not in my Calic storage, but in my display cases here. These are Billy bookcases that I, again, got from Ikea. And this video isn't sponsored from Ikea. It's just that I go for bang for your buck, sort of what's a good value. And these were a good value, especially putting on these glass doors. Makes it look super classy. And I'm replacing some of the shelves that I had at the bottom so that I can fit 2 of these side by side and be able to pull these in and out as I need them. The only other criticism that I have about this that is a downside is a couple of people have been able to peel off the cork that's on one side. Now, if you didn't magnetize and you were just placing your miniatures on here, I actually think the cork is good because it's non-slippery and it keeps your miniatures from moving around. But I wanted to take advantage of being able to stick my magnetized minis directly onto the steel plate. And I also wanted this tab to face up. Now, as you can see here, simple solution is just to flip it over and you have access to the metal side like this, and the tab is just facing down. But I sort of wanted it to face up and have the metal be on the other side. I looked and some people online said, oh yeah, it's super easy to pull off that cork. I did it fairly easily. It took me over an hour to do one sheet, and I used a scraper, I used a heat gun, I ended up pouring acetone on it to try to get it off, and at the end of the day it was just a mess, and I'm not going to spend hours just to get that cork off. I just said, well, I'm going to flip this over. Also, I have the option of labeling these trays if I want to. If I, for whatever reason, can't remember which miniatures or which games that these miniatures go to, I can absolutely label them. But the other cool option is if you don't want the tab to be in the front sort of covering up miniatures, you can absolutely flip this around, because the way that Ikea made the tabs is that it will go in this direction as well. So then you have it so that there is no tab covering up any of your miniatures. You're able to see that well. The reason why I'm not doing that is because I don't want to accidentally scrape the top of whatever miniatures are down below. And that's why I'm keeping an eye out for where or how tall these miniatures are. And the final criticism is, because this is all steel, it is a little bit heavy. You would think that this is light, but the unit is quite substantial and heavy. So it's not going to be super lightweight like some of your other options, which I'm totally fine with. It's not a big deal. I can lift this fairly easily, but just keep that in mind that this isn't going to be like a piece of acrylic or something like that. I also threw together these 1-inch or 25mm holes in case you wanted to keep all of your miniatures in a tidy row. Although I found that you don't really need them because of the cork that's on there. You can probably fit more miniatures on there without it, but I know some of you would like that. This also is magnetized, so you can stick them onto the sheet. And the 6x3 disc magnets are strong enough where even on the cork side, it has a little bit of a pull to it to make sure that it doesn't move around. Again, links in the descriptions below. You can pick that up for free as I uploaded that. At one point, I was thinking about just going completely DIY, using my new laser cutter to make one out of 3mm plywood and buying metal sheets and putting it all together. But at the end of the day, I was able to just buy, 3 more of these, put them together in one evening, tape these on the sides, and I was done with it. And at any point, I can go back to Ikea and pick up more of these boxes whenever I need it, whenever my collection gets bigger. So this is, in terms of time, one of the fastest options that I have. Go ahead and make a comment below about what kind of storage system, miniature storage system you use. More importantly, what kind of transportation system that you have come up with. I know a number of people use actually plastic bins with sheet of metal down at the bottom, and that's another way to do it. Although I found this to be a lot faster just because I don't have to glue down a piece of metal down at the bottom of a plastic container. So just make a comment. I would be curious if there are other options that I didn't consider that you found to be really cool and relatively cost effective. Go ahead and use the link below to go to my Patreon page in order to have an opportunity to be chosen by Bob at the end of this month for one of the gratitude gifts. Also, make sure to subscribe because I'm going to be coming out with multiple videos this year about the various skirmish and war games, tabletop war games that I'm going to be trying out in my pursuit of finding that perfect tabletop game. So happy gaming. We'll see you next time.